Okay, when we get to question 2, you are being asked, how does the writer use language to describe? Okay, and they will give you the extract that they want from you, so you can only use quotations from here, and you will always see the exact same question. How does the writer use language here to describe or to present something in that part of the text? Now we know that when a text says how, when a question says how, we know we are being asked about the choices made by the writer. What choices have they made? What words? What images have they chosen to present to us, the reader, in order to make us think, feel, and imagine certain things? For example, if this question, how does the writer use language here to describe the Tyrannosaurus Rex, we're being asked to, how does this description make us think about the dinosaur? How does it make us imagine the dinosaur? And how does it make us feel about the dinosaur and the things that are around the dinosaur? And really within that, we're thinking what quotations support our understanding. Okay, and when he says, how does the writer use language here, we're being asked about your words and images to describe to the reader. Imagine it said here to describe to the reader the Tyrannosaurus Rex. You are being asked about the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now, our question in the exam could be about anything. Our text could be about anything. So the first thing I want you to get into a really good habit of doing is exploding your question. What are your expectations of this? Any day of the week, no matter what, if you were being asked this question on the street, asked this question in a different lesson, what would you know about this thing? Now, a Tyrannosaurus Rex, if you didn't know that, you were going to have some struggle here. So it's really important to make sure that we read the extract properly. Now, when we read this, we learned they were on a hunting expedition visiting a prehistoric jungle to shoot a Tyrannosaurus Rex. So we know at least it's a creature that they're hunting. We know it's a being, we know it's a creature. Okay? As we read it, we worked out that it was a predatory creature. So even if you didn't know it was a dinosaur, you know from the text that this Tyrannosaurus Rex is a predatory creature. It is specifically a T-Rex, okay? So it's a dinosaur. First thing we do is what vocabulary comes to mind when you think of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, when you think of a dinosaur. Okay? So you might choose words such as potent, predatory. Is it superior or inferior to the men? Superior. Think specifically, what is it superior to? The men? What else? The jungle? It seems to be superior to everything around it. It is that kind of predator. Okay? So it is potent, predatory, superior. We might learn more about it as we read, but just based on what we know that probably it is an enemy. We know it is a creature that puts humans in danger. Okay, we might describe it as omnipotent if we think it's actually the biggest predator in that area. And then we have those words. As we read when we did our writing, we also talked about the idea of the size of it being a huge predator. We talked about the idea that if a dinosaur is a predator, then the other things are its prey, so it has prey. So now let's read the extract and let's think, well, what choices has the writer used to describe a Tyrannosaurus Rex? I want you to do this and highlight anything that is about the Tyrannosaurus Rex. There's going to be loads of examples. It came on great oiled, resilient striding legs. It towered 30 feet above half of the trees, a great, evil god, folding its delicate watchmaker's claws close to its oily reptilian chest. Each lower leg was a piston, 1,000 pounds of white bone sunk in thick ropes of muscle, sheathed over in a gleam of pebbled skin, like the armour of a terrible warrior. Just a note there, when it says like the armour of a terrible warrior, it does not mean a bad warrior, someone who's bad at something. It means terrible, as in terrifying. And you can work out that this is a terrifying image if you read the sentence properly. 1,000 pounds of white bone, thick ropes of muscle, a gleam of pebbled skin, tough skin. The armour, therefore, must be tough armour. Therefore, he must be a terrifying warrior. Each thigh was a ton of meat, ivory and steel mesh. And from the great breathing cage of the upper body, those two delicate arms dangled out front, arms with hands which might pick up and examine men like toys, while the snake neck coiled, and the head itself, a ton of sculptured stone, lifted easily upon the sky. Its mouth gaped, exposing a fence of teeth like daggers. Its eyes rolled ostrich eggs, empty of all expression save hunger. It closed its mouth in a death grin. It ran, its pelvic bones crushing aside trees and bushes, its taloned feet clawing damp earth, leaving prints 6 inches deep wherever it settled its weight. Now I could have highlighted loads there, okay? I could have highlighted the fact it towered 30 feet above the trees. I could have highlighted great evil God. I could have highlighted 1,000 pounds of white bone, a gleam of pebbled skin like the armour of a terrible warrior, a ton of meat, examine men like toys. His arms could examine men like toys. Its head was sculptured stone. Its teeth like daggers. The idea of its mouth being in a death grin. There's just loads. Honestly, I could have highlighted even more than I've done now. The reason we highlight as much as possible, or kind of look for as much possible, is so that we select the best quotation. Now for you, you'll want to choose 3 quotations that represent the writer's choices most clearly to you. What do you understand the best here? Because you've got all of this choice, so let's now remove the options we don't want, and let's think, what do I know I can explain? Well, I know that everyone watching this can explain what it is for something to tower over something else. I know that you all know what a god is because we have done it in Macbeth, A Christmas Carol, etc. So I know we know this phrase, great evil God. And then you'll just pick another one. You might really like the examine men like toys. You might really like the teeth like daggers. Okay, I'm going to put arms with hands which might pick up and examine men like toys. They're my 3 quotations. And then what I need to do is I need to think, well, what does this reveal to me? What about these choices reveals to me, the reader, what I need to understand about the Tyrannosaurus Rex? So let's take the first one. If it towered. For something to tower, what does that mean? Give me words. What does that mean? I'll pause for you to write your words. It means it is vast, huge, and potent. Is it superior or inferior? And then what is it superior to? If it towered 30 feet above half the trees, it is superior to the men and even the entire jungle. Okay, is it secure or vulnerable? It's entirely secure, isn't it? Why is this creature secure? Because of its size. It's not vulnerable to anything. If so, what is vulnerable to the dinosaur? The men are vulnerable to the dinosaur. And that's really key, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to take a look at my other quotation. Oh, sorry, why are the men vulnerable to the dinosaur? Because of its size, because of its power, because it is a predator. And I can add that quote here, can I? Tower, and I'll just add an ing in brackets to make it mine, to fit my sentence. A towering predator, which the men are vulnerable to. So that's the first way I've been introduced to the dinosaur. What other choices has he made? Well, let's think about great evil God. We know that image of God. What is this image? Tell us. Well, what is a god? A god is, get rid of your words, to myself, a divine, omnipotent creature. Usually, how does a god act? If we think about God, what words would you use to describe God's behaviour? We might say benevolent. We might say moral. We might say kind. We might say loving. But here we do not have a benevolent and moral God. Here we have a great evil God. And if something is evil, this means it is not benevolent, it's malevolent. It is not moral, it is immoral. Maybe even corrupted, yeah? Maybe even sinister. maybe even menacing. Yeah, malevolent, immoral, callous, menacing, predator. If you have all of this power and you use it malevolently, what does that mean? It means danger, doesn't it? It means you abuse your power. Almost tyrannically. Yeah? If a human being has all this power but uses it for evil, we call those people tyrants, don't we? Yeah, tyrant is a cruel leader. Well, this dinosaur is the cruel leader of the jungle. So we've learned a lot. I'm not going to do the third quote because you can do that yourself as an I do. But what I am going to show you is how to put those great ideas into a paragraph. So, things I would like to see in your paragraphs. I would like to see both and. This is why we do this vocabulary work, so that we can say both and. I would like to see things like because. I would like to see which. I would like to see although or while. I would like to see revealing. And I would like to see things about the writer is trying to highlight, show, present, etc. Okay? I might see the word reader specifically. I'm really looking for these ideas. Okay? We can take that further with the not only but also, but that's what I'm looking for. So let's look at my first model. Clearly, the Tyrannosaurus Rex is both superior and potent. For example, the great evil god is described to tower over the men and the trees. I've embedded my quotations, and I've said what is happening in these quotations. The great evil god towers over the men and the trees. In other words, the creature is both potent and superior because it is physically larger and stronger than even the jungle itself. I have proved why I now know that. I know it is superior and potent because it is physically larger and stronger than even the jungle itself. Once I've explained what something means, I then have to zoom in and analyse specific meanings of images and words. Here I've chosen the image of God. In particular, while a god is usually, while this is usually a powerful and divine creature, who is often benevolent, or which I could have said there. Here the dinosaur is an evil god, revealing its malevolent and predatory nature. Perhaps the writer highlights the power and size of the predator in order to highlight the danger the men are in. Okay, this answer is good. You can see I've highlighted lots of places where we're getting marks. We are explaining the meaning of words. We are analysing the representation, the revealing choices the writer has made. The only difference is what's missing here is I'm not really mentioning the reader very specifically. And I forgot my other thing that I said I was going to. Here, where I introduced the god, I really should have said, in particular, the image of God, while the image of God, in particular, while the image of our God is usually, I would like to see image here. Okay? I think I've done the same thing in my other model where I've not got it. And I would like to see the reader more specifically mentioned here. So I'll just show you a higher model and we'll see what I've done differently. And I might not have done those things, but we'll see what I did do. Clearly, the writer presents the T-Rex as both superior and potent in comparison to the inferior and impotent humans. Already I've made that idea more specific because I've said by showing us the superiority of the T-Rex, the writer reveals the inferiority of the hunters. For instance, despite the fact the men have hunted tiger, elephant and more, this new prey is towering above even the trees. Now here what I've done is I've thought about the text in more detail. The clever thing that's been done here is I've thought about these men are hunters. They are experienced hunters. They've hunted tiger, elephant and more. But this new prey is towering even above the trees. Bigger than a tiger, bigger than an elephant. I think it's going to be a challenge for the men. In other words, the creature is not only huge and potent, but also entirely superior to the men and the jungle itself. I've got that not only, I've got that but also, but what I've got is revealing it to be a dangerous predator. And I might add there, and a possible challenge to the men. I don't know if I, as the reader, am sure that our men can defeat this creature. In particular, the dinosaur is described to be a great evil god. Here, I might say, in particular, the writer uses the image of a great evil god to describe the dinosaur. So I need to add image. Despite the fact a god is a powerful and divine creature, which has connotations of benevolence and compassion, here the Tyrannosaurus is an evil god, which reveals how this creature uses its omnipotence abnormally and malevolently. I've got this, which reveals. It uses its power, its omnipotence, abnormally and malevolently, further highlighting to the reader the danger the men are in. Plus, if a creature uses its omnipotence badly, if it abuses its power, I could say, and almost tyrannically. And I could make it better that way. Okay? So that's kind of what we're looking for in question 2. And you would want to write at least 2 paragraphs of this quality. We're really looking for 3 paragraphs in this time. Okay, well done for watching this video. I would like you now to have a go at a question 2 by yourself.